one child yells out, "That's my best friend, that's my brother," while crying and trying to come at Carmelo Anthony's our understanding of that moment. I mean, there's so much sobbing when it comes to these children and the trauma that they're going through. And you're also hearing that sobbing in the courtroom. And this is something that is very compelling evidence, I would think, for these jurors.
Absolutely. But you know what I didn't hear? They were trying to kill me. I was feared for my life. I had nothing I could do. I had to do this to be able to get out of there because they were going to take my life. They were going to kill me. They were going to beat me to a pulp. I didn't hear any of that. So the self-defense argument starts to kind of fade a little because that's at the moment when he's confronted by this officer and has the chance to say, listen, I did this because I had to. If I didn't, I would not have been able to get out of that tent.
All right, we got to get into this because I really don't want to talk about this. And it is the Carmelo Anthony case. I don't like this. And I'll explain why. Because I hate to say it, let's just be honest. The Carmelo Anthony, most of us tap into the Carmelo Anthony case or cases in general as we don't intention to do this. We don't intend to do this, forgive me. But it's a form of entertainment. Okay, let's just tell the truth. You watch crime TV, you watch court TV, you watch that stuff. It's a little bit of entertaining. It's a little bit of capturing you're entertaining you. It's a little bit of capturing your attention while you're doing work or while you're doing stuff around the house. It's kind of entertaining. I hate to say it like that, but let's just be honest, right? And I think everybody knows that there's a form, there's a level, there's a degree of entertainment to court TV, to court dialogue or whatever you want to call it. And sadly, because we're not able to see what's going on in the actual courtroom and what's actually happening with Carmelo Anthony and the witnesses and this, that, and the third, we're getting information. We're getting information fed to us through various and sundry journalists and such of that nature. And I knew this was going to happen. So we have journalists that come through that, this person is telling me what I want to hear and it's tickling my entertainment, or this person is telling me what I believe is already true and that's tickling my entertainment or capturing my attention. But a lot of this, I hate to say it, is not real. I don't think it's good. And because now we're watching the different factions outside of the courthouse protesting for what? Like what are you doing? Both of them. If you're pro or you're anti, what are you doing? What are you protesting for? What's going to change? All you're going to do is end up causing something to go south. And I hate it. So I'm a little bit tense. That's why I don't really want to talk about the Carmelo Anthony trial. I know people want to hear about it. People want to hear my thoughts. And I've gathered several little articles so we can talk about it and keep it civil. But I feel bad because I'm like, this is a young man's life that is, well, one young man's life was taken. This young man's life, either way, his life, he's not going to walk out free. You can just give that up. Either way, this man's life is lost. We got two young men whose lives are lost. And the world, or let's just say, let's say the world. The world is salivating to watch what happens to this man, not because they care about his soul, that he's a sinner that needs a savior, but we're just being entertained by him. I mean, this is effectively modern day gladiators. I mean, that's basically what this amounts to in some ways or shapes or form. I just feel like, this is not a good look for us. And especially going into the midterms, we got all of this attention going here. You had what happened in South Carolina this week as well. You got a lot of people that are really, you can say tribalistic, you can say factions are forming, whatever it is that you got to say. But really, I don't know, man. I feel bad. I feel bad for the community. I feel bad for that school. I feel bad for those witnesses, those jurors. And of course, I mean, I feel bad for the people that are out there. Again, like, what are you protesting for? We love to sit there and protest about what? What are you protesting for? Not one thing is going to change. Not one thing is going to change if you don't yell. Not one thing is going to change if you're not standing out there checking your armpit to see if it's funky. Nothing's going to change. What's going to change is what's happening in that courtroom. And my last point, and I'm going to get on somebody's nerve. I really want to. My goal is to perturb some of my guests that watch my channel with nefarious purposes. Where is the church in this situation in Frisco, Texas? I'd love to see, like, what are churches doing about this situation? Because every day when we pull this in, we'll look in a second. There are tons of people who are lost. There are tons of people who have no hope in Christ, and they find their hope. They find their value. They're finding what is, borderline meaningful in protesting for a young man that killed another young man. That's how they find value. Can we please make this make sense? Please? What are we doing? That makes no sense whatsoever. So I'm a little bit bothered by it. That's why I don't really talk that much. Cause I was gonna do like all day streaming of it and talk about it and bring in highlights and all that stuff like that. I said, no, we're just gonna do a nightly recap and call it a game. Cause it just seems like it's I don't know, man. I don't like it. That's my name. My name is Jason, JWhit at JWhit.com. Let me know what you think. Tell me I'm a terrible person. I need to get in here and I need to get at it. I need to be worried about this thing. Like, why are we finding entertainment in that? I just find very weird. Okay, so our sister from another mister, Tamara Neely, is actually there at the courthouse. Shout out to her. She's been, is this delayed? Okay, I think she might have, did she end her stream? I know she's been out. Well, okay. So let me give you an example. Hold on, let me pull this in. All right. Well, you need to see it. There we go. Let's go. All right. So this is Tamara's stream. It looks like she ended her stream already. But I just dropped in. I just want you to check this out. Green hearts in chat when you can hear. Like what is, I'm not even trying to be funny, not even trying to be difficult or be obtuse. What does what does justice mean? What does justice mean in this situation? We know Karmelo Anthony deleted the boy, so he's got to get justice. So what does justice mean to this group? So that's what I'm saying. Like, the protesting is retarded from the word go. Like, what are we doing? And it just seems like, I don't know, man. I don't think this is good. I am praying that that this is like a 2-week trial, that it is over with, by the end of next week or going into the next week at the most. I'm really praying that this is over soon. I don't think I don't know. What are we doing?
As you can see, the news is here recording.
But what are we doing though? What is the purpose of this? I'm not trying to be funny. And please, if I'm being obtuse, JWhit at JWhit.com. What is the purpose of this for both sides? What is the purpose? Right. I'm right there. Mindy's feeling what I'm saying. I'm fearing that there will be riots if he's found guilty because they won't accept the facts. Right. I mean, you said you want justice. Justice will be metered out. And when the verdict is read out, that will be justice. So is there a justice that you want, or is there a justice, or do you just want your way? Is my question. Wait to prison. He will. Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's a purpose. Like, what's the purpose of being out here, quote unquote, protesting for this? Like, what's the purpose of this? I'm just watching a few more seconds. Then we gotta go.
Prison number. Prison number.
You said what's his prison number is foul. Jeffrey Dahmer is getting called into the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Can somebody tell me what this lady's dancing to? What is she dancing to? What is she must be jacked in to some old 70s funk, because she is getting groovy with it. Man, what are you dancing to? But again, like, this is what I'm saying. Like, the newscasts are filming this and just chomping and salivating at the mouth. For what? Like, what's the purpose of being there? Why are we there arguing? None of this is going to change anything. Not one thing that y'all argue, not one thing that y'all say is going to change one witness. And yeah, I don't know, man. I do not think this is good at all. I'm praying for Frisco, Texas, because as somebody said, they're going to riot. I hope they don't, but I can see where you get it from. Let's jump over to Court TV. We'll get a synopsis of what's happening over here, and then we'll keep this game moving. So shout out to the best live chat on the internet. I appreciate y'all for sure. All right, let's go. What you got, Court TV?
Welcome back to Court TV Live. I'm Julia Janae. After an emotional first day of testimony yesterday that prompted tears even from the jury box, those jurors returned to the courthouse in McKinney, Texas today for more testimony in the track meet stabbing trial of Karmelo Anthony. Thanks so much for being with us as we follow day 2 today. We understand that the court is breaking for their lunch. That happened a short time ago. That means our eyes and ears.
Okay, there's a lot of people with arguments about the days. So day 1 in most people's argumentation was Monday. So today, and they didn't have court on Wednesday. So today would be day 4. I think they're going with, they're not including the 2 days of jury selection. So most people are saying day 2, they're starting with yesterday and today. That's how we got here. So I'm counting the 2 days of jury selection as well in my numbering. So that's why I say today's day 4. They say today 2. We're going to say tomato. We're going to say tomato. And let's keep going. Maybe that.
Here's in the courtroom, Cody Thomas. He is going to be able at some point to join us from outside of the courthouse. But he's been keeping us updated on everything that's unfolding in this cameraless trial. Let's go to the report that Cody logged for us on what he's been observing.
Good afternoon. Yeah, day 2 off to a emotional start this morning. We had a first responder as the first witness on the stand. 3 witnesses so far, first responder and 2 officers. The first responder was a firefighter and paramedic that pretty much testified to the severity of the wounds once he arrived to Austin Metcalf's body, and just talked about the intense life-saving efforts they went through trying to revive him, to which, of course, to no avail. But they talked about, attaching a machine to his chest to read a pulse, and he had no pulse. They said it was flatline. There was an acronym he used, a medical term, and the prosecutor asked for, simplicity for the lay people in the gallery, and he just said, yeah, he had no pulse. He was pretty much dead in a cardiac sense. They loaded him up into the back of the ambulance, to which, he eventually did not regain consciousness. But then we went on to see more from officers, and they were testifying about their response to the situation that day. One was a school resource officer. He was actually the one that made contact with Karmelo Anthony and the one who detained him. But he talked about the commotion when he ran out there to the scene, all the kids running to him saying, someone's been stabbed, and they pointed towards Karmelo's direction. And so you see on the body cam when he finally approaches Karmelo, and Karmelo seemed to cooperate. He was being very cooperative. He was being compliant. He didn't try to run away. But the key thing about this testimony here on the body cam, you hear Karmelo say to the officer, he put his hands on me. I told him not to. And when he says that phrase, he clearly he's crying hysterically. You can hear him sobbing in a very emotional state. But the prosecution's harping on that last half of that statement, the I told him not to part, because the prosecution says that's simply a lie. We've heard that phrasing, he told him not to put his hands on me, or put your hands on me and see what happens. That's the narrative that the prosecution's running with, and that eventually led Karmelo to stab Austin Metcalf. But there was another officer whose body cam was played during this officer's testimony, where you heard the officer say, we have the alleged suspect, and then clearly hear Karmelo say out loud, "I'm not alleged, I did it." So kind of damaging to the defense's case here. But then we just heard from an officer who arrived who did not partake in any life-saving efforts for Austin Metcalf's body. More of scene patrol, scene security is what he was saying, and evidence control. He was the one securing off the scene there, and he actually showed, or we saw pictures of the knife. It was a 5-inch blade. The first time the jury actually saw that knife in person, they did a demonstrative effort in front of this jury where they showed that the blade could be swung out really quick with just the stroke of a thumb. You could open it really quickly with one hand. But the impactful part of that testimony is that we saw the body cam from this officer where you actually see Austin Metcalf's pretty much lifeless body, everyone trying to give him chest compressions, but you see the body on screen, and that obviously brought out a visceral, emotional reaction from the Metcalf family. Plenty of tears and sobbing and consoling. And I looked towards Karmelo Anthony's side, and it was pretty stoic. There was a lack of emotion there, not necessarily in a negative sense, but just really take evidence here, all the facts of this case as the prosecution presents it thus far. That's the latest right now. I'll send it back to you.
Our thanks to Cody Thomas for that report there in McKinney, Texas. Let's bring in our guests who are standing by to talk about this evidence, this new evidence that the jury has seen inside of that courtroom. We have with us trial attorneys Lateef Gray and Al Wunsch III. Thank you both for being here to talk about this case that has so many people talking online. They are paying attention to the details, even though we don't have cameras inside, but the details that are coming out, everyone has an opinion on them, and I'm glad I can get your legal expertise on these. Al, let me start with you. The jury seeing the knife for the first time today. How important is the weapon, the size of the weapon? Does it matter, especially when this is a knife that obviously was able to kill someone?
No, I mean, it's always a key part of any prosecution case to have the weapon. So when you have the weapon there and you can show that, and it dispels any, false rumors that it was a stake or something that was used for the sporting event that was going on. This is a knife. This is a knife that is a dangerous knife, and this is a knife that should not have been at a sporting event for a high school team. Perfect.
Lateef
right there.
Gray, weigh in as well about that knife. What did you think about hearing that it's a 5-inch blade, that it was folded out at the point that the officers were able to preserve it? Talk about that part of it and whether or not that makes a difference when it comes to this case being self-defense or murder.
Well, I think it does make a difference in the fact that you have a 5-inch switchblade. This is not what we would consider a utility knife, which a lot of people keep with them, that has a little blade, a bottle opener, things like that. So the big question is, what was this young man doing at this track event with this type of knife that it seems like he brought it maybe for his particular purpose? So that's the big question as to what he was doing with this type of knife, which is not what we usually see people walk around with on a daily basis.
Yeah, we keep hearing that question. Why did he have the knife? Now, there was something that came out today, Al, where on cross-examination, one of the witnesses did confirm that having the knife is not a crime, but they don't mean at the school, obviously, because there is a specific rule for that school ground. Can you help people understand the difference and whether or not those school regulations matter in a court of law, in a murder trial?
Well, I mean, it is something that no weapons are supposed to be brought into the schools. Schools have a zero tolerance of any type of, they have a zero tolerance for having a pretend gun. You can't even bring a water pistol in some instances if it looks like a real weapon. So that is a zero tolerance policy. Okay, having the possession of the knife is not a criminal offense in and of itself. That's correct. Okay, but it's a school event. He's a student. He's there. He's got a knife, 5-inch switchblade, which, I mean, we all agree is not the type of thing you would need under any circumstances at a sporting event. And he used the knife. So, whether or not it's legal to have it, it doesn't matter. Okay. It shouldn't have been there, and it shouldn't have been used, and it shouldn't have taken the life of that, poor 17-year-old kid.
Oh, yeah.
I guarantee you they would not be having this argument about whether it been a 5-inch knife, or 4 1/4-inch knife, or a Bowie knife like your Crocodile Dundee. They would not be having that conversation if it were a school pew-pew. Everybody knows that's a weapon that doesn't need to be there. Why are we arguing about whether or not the weapon need to be there? It should not have been there. That was it. His end of the discussion. Well, let's move on. He was wrong for having the weapon there. I don't understand. Like, see, this is the part that kind of makes me a little frustrated, and I wish the court was actually being recorded or being streamed so we could watch that, so we could hear it together rather than just a talking head here. And again, I agree with him, but I just think that some people have lost the plot. Like, no, you can't have that at school, my dude. Okay, let's get that.
This question of whether or not you're allowed to have it and whether or not that matters in a criminal trial reminds me of a case that I was inside of the courtroom for in Florida against Curtis Reeves, who was a retired police officer at a movie theater. There were signs on the movie theater doors that said, this is a no weapon zone. He had his weapon. He fired it in self-defense. A jury did acquit him of murder and killed another man who only had popcorn in his hand. But it did come up inside of the courtroom as to whether or not he saw the signs, whether he knew he should have it, or as a retired officer, is he allowed to carry the gun all the time? Lateef, is that, in your opinion, going to be weighing on the minds of the jury?
I think that's a different situation. A movie theater saying no weapons policy and a school being a weapons-free zone, in my opinion, are two different places. Not only are they two different places, but they're two different situations as well. There's a reason why. Yeah, I disagree with that. I don't think she should have brought that into the mix, but that's just me.
Jury about where should this knife have been? Where was it permitted to have been? Or again, does it matter at all because this knife was used in a way that killed someone?
Well, I will say
I'm
this.
sure that's
okay.
something that,
All right, let me let Lateef weigh in, Al, and then I'll let you react to it.
All right.
I'm sure that's something that the jury will consider, but I think we all know law trumps policy. So if it's not against the law, like I said, it's something that the jury will consider, but I don't think that will carry the day for either side at the end of the day.
Al, what do you think? Law trumps policy?
Yeah, law does trump policy, except that, and let's keep this in mind. This isn't Florida. Okay, that was the most ridiculous verdict I've ever heard in my life that happened with regards to a guy who throws a couple of, assault and buttery, I called it, and he ends up losing his life in a movie theater. All right, this is Texas. I am confident that they're going to be a lot smarter jury, and they're going to be looking at it facts-wise as to what was going on, as opposed to some ridiculous verdict out of Florida.
Let's look at what the school resource officer on the stand today. This was, of course, a big moment. This is someone who would have arrived right after. And here are some of Cody Thomas's notes from inside watching that testimony. This witness, Eduardo Cortez, he was a school resource officer. He described the arrest of Karmelo Anthony. He said an adult pointed out the suspect and said, that's the guy. I called him towards me. I patted him down. I had him raise his arms and ordered him to walk with me along that fence line. He obeyed me. He didn't try to run away. I turned on my body-worn camera, had him place his hands behind his back, and had him detained. The thing that most shocked me was that a student brought a knife to a track meet, and this witness agrees that that alone was unprecedented. Then on cross-examination, this witness agrees that Karmelo Anthony was emotional, said the knife is under 5 inches, actually not prohibited. It's not illegal, not a crime. So that's what I was mentioning there of this witness speaking about it that way. But that body camera footage, Lateef, it was played inside of the courtroom today. That is always really important for jurors to see as much as they can. And here they get to see the body camera, not of days later when police catch someone, but right after it happens, this school resource officer is on the scene.
Right, and the body-worn camera presumably captures some spontaneous statements, excited utterances made by Mr. Anthony in the moment of the event while it's still on his mind and heavy on his heart. So oftentimes these body-worn cameras, which capture the aftermath of the incident, are best evidence because they capture things that are said and things that are done before anybody has time to consult with an attorney and develop a defense to what the particular charges are.
Al, what do you think about the weight of that body camera? Because I do want to add some of the notes that we're getting from the courtroom that you can hear on it, a handful of crying students. One child yells out, "That's my best friend, that's my brother," while crying and trying to come at Karmelo Anthony's our understanding of that moment. I mean, there's so much sobbing when it comes to these children and the trauma that they're going through. And you're also hearing that sobbing in the courtroom. And this is something that is very compelling evidence, I would think, for these jurors.
Absolutely. But you know what I didn't hear? They were trying to kill me. I was feared for my life. I had nothing I could do. I had to do this to be able to get out of there because they were going to take my life. They were going to kill me. They were going to beat me to a pulp. I didn't hear any of that. So the self-defense argument starts to kind of fade a little, because that's at the moment when he's confronted by this officer and has the chance to say, listen, I did this because I had to. If I didn't, I would not have been able to get out of that tent. They were trying to beat me up. They were trying to do something to me. They were trying to kill me. You don't hear that. So I think that's going to be very important with regards to the prosecution's case. And of course, you hear those other cries going in the background. I mean, that's just an emotional aspect of it. It just shows you just how horrific this crime is.
Yeah.
It's a terrible thing. And I mean, I feel terrible for both individuals, honestly.
Amen.
I hate to see that this, Mr. Anthony has ruined his life.
Facts. With
this ridiculousness of bringing on a knife to attract me, and going into the opposite field, the opposing team's domain, and why.
All right, so shout out to Court TV. I think that was very interesting. So let me know what y'all think about it. I do have another one. We're going to jump over here and look at something that happened in court today that is probably going to be on the news most of this weekend as well. This is interesting because, today's Friday, so we got the weekend. There's not a lot to talk about. There's going to be a lot of recaps. So Karmelo Anthony fidgets in court as heartbreaking video shows victim's twin brother react to fatal deletion. And I don't know why it's not allowed. The screen didn't open up. Let's see what's going on here. Let me hit that refresh button real quick. All right, it's a conspiracy. Austin Metcalf's twin brother could be heard desperately sobbing and screaming after his high school jock sibling was fatally stabbed allegedly by Karmelo Anthony, who squirmed in the courtroom as harrowing body cam footage was played. Yeah, that's got to be pretty powerful, like, to see that and know that that's what you did. So, holy God, Hunter Metcalf said through tears, apparently praying, "He's my best friend. He's my brother. Hurry up." Man, sad for these kids, man. The heartbreaking moment unfolded as medics and bystanders crowded around the bloodied body of Austin and attempted to revive him with CPR as the video was shown to the jurors in the second day of the Anthony murder trial. I'm just going to hit the high points. Sorry about that. Anthony, now 19, sat in Collin County Courthouse in McKinney, fidgeting, including touching his lips and averting his eyes during particular graphic moments. At one point, he rubbed his eyes and his lawyer sitting next to him patted him on the shoulder. Yeah, that's going to be, this is just wild, man. Anthony also briefly quivered toward the end of the harrowing video. Anthony, a student at Frisco Central High School, is accused of knifing Austin, who attended Frisco Memorial High School, during a track and field meet on April 2nd, 2025. The pair got into an altercation after the 17-year-old victim asked Anthony, who was also 17 at the time, to move out from under the Memorial team tent. The pair allegedly shoved each other before Anthony pulled a folding knife out of his bag and stabbed Austin once in the chest, prosecutor claimed. I don't understand why they have to say the word claim. Like, they know the boy has one stab wound. Like, you don't have to say the prosecutor claimed that. Like, he did get stabbed in the chest one time. I've never understood that. Why? Okay, yeah, he did it one time. He didn't go back and forth. He didn't get him multiple times. Just did one time. I never understood that. And I'll leave the link to this down in the description as well, so you can definitely check it out. I think I have most of these in there, but I might not. I'll do better. Anthony has pled not guilty As his lawyers claim, the stabbing was self-defense after Austin started the fight. Okay, I think that's the end of it. That New York Post, boy, they be wilding out. Yeah, I don't know why this is not popping up, but all right. So what are we thinking? What's going on, President Not Perfect? Grace and peace to you, brother. Good to see you. Yeah, this is going to be interesting. Like I said, man, I feel bad because I'm like, this young man's life is toast. His life is done. Dunzo. And that's just sad to see, man. Like your whole deal is shot. All right, real quick. I'm gonna go through a couple of X posts real quick and get this out of the way. Sorry about that, President. All right. The judge told the media not to identify the current witness because he's a minor. That's an update from Brianna Morello. The witness says Karmelo Anthony was asked at least 15 times to leave their tent. Anthony refused to leave. The teen says no one ganged up on Karmelo. Witnesses added that Karmelo was provoking Austin. Witness says Austin Metcalf pushed Karmelo, but it wasn't a hard push. That's when Karmelo pulled the knife from his book bag and stabbed him. He adds Karmelo tossed the weapon and ran off. The 911 call placed by the witness was played. All right. I do have these links down in the description, so you can definitely go check out Brianna Morello. There's a lot of them. So I figured I'm just going to kind of hit some of the high points and then we're going to kind of move on. So what do we have here? We got Mary Ann Martinez. Shout out to her. I appreciate her sharing her insight. Let me make sure I got that right on my side. All right. Let's make this bigger. We are back from court for an afternoon session with Karmelo Anthony trial. The judge has asked the media to not identify the upcoming witnesses who are minors. We were not told who the minors are or what they will be testifying to. All right. 17-year-old Memorial High School male athlete now testifying. We have been told not to give his name. He had been hanging out with Austin on the day of the stabbing, and he also runs track for Memorial. He was under the tent with Austin Metcalf. All right. I'm just hitting the high points of these, y'all. I am not going into deep dives on these at all because there's so many of them. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the JWhit Podcast. If you enjoyed today's show, please do me a favor and hit me up with that 3-piece special. Like the video, subscribe, and of course, share it with somebody who would also enjoy this type of content. And make sure you leave a comment because I do pin the best comments to the top. So thank you so much for tuning in today. And until next time, everybody, grace and peace.